If you're born into a crazy place, and you're brought up in the crazy place, and you become an adult in the crazy place, and all you've ever known in your life is a crazy place, then to you, crazy is normal. What happens when a cell gets poisoned is it secretes something called exosomes. And these exosomes, as they are released, and they're only released when the cell is poisoned, and it can be poisoned through many, many reasons. It can be toxicity. Wait for this one. It can be poison through stress and fear. You imagine the stress and fear that's going on in the world now during this lockdown. It can be caused by disease, infection, and it can be caused by electromagnetic fields, which will become very relevant when we get into 5G.
A very interesting study that was from 1977. So in other words, they were looking at this technology a long time ago, even though they may have not been able to put it out in terms of a wireless network. And this was actually a CIA document that was declassified. And what it did is it studied mice who were exposed to frequency bands around 60 gigahertz, which is part of the stated range of 5G. So these are millimeter waves. They're much shorter wavelength than the current telecommunications technology, and they have different properties. And in these experimental mice, they demonstrated two findings that I think are very significant. One finding is that it caused suppression of the bone marrow. And the bone marrow is the part of our body where all our blood cells are made. So this caused low blood counts, white cells, red cells, which is known as anemia, and also platelets, which, if they're low enough, can cause bleeding problems. The other main finding from this study in the experimental mice was that the radiation disrupted the mitochondria's ability to take up oxygen. So mitochondria are a special organelle inside of our cells, and then they're present in all mammal cells. And they're the energy factory of the cell. So they're the only part of the cell that can use oxygen to undergo a process called oxidative phosphorylation, which yields a lot of energy, way more than our other system, which is glycolysis, which is similar to fermentation. And so in this study, it's found that the ability of the mitochondria to take up and utilize the oxygen was seriously impaired, up to, I believe, 64% in the kidney. So this could have devastating health effects and could cause organ failure chronically, or even acutely could result in death potentially by disrupting the organ's ability to create energy. They can't carry out their normal processes without that energy. It would be like if I tried to unplug my computer right now, in a short amount of time, we would lose our connection. And so these potential effects are quite troubling to me. I don't know exactly how the 5G infrastructure is going to be utilized and what frequency is going to be used for what part of it, but it certainly is quite concerning that they're not going to study it, that they are installing it now when all other similar activities are stopped. And there are at least some pretty scary health consequences that are potentially going to be realized.
The roles of exosomes is poison cells warning other cells as they travel around, there's a problem. Get ready, look, there's a problem here. So all you have to do to get exosomes released is to have poison cells by these various reasons. What Kaufman started looking at was under the microscope pictures of exosomes, what they look like. And then he looked at an under the microscope picture of what is claimed to be COVID-19. These two were exactly the same. He then starts looking at the genetic makeup of the exosomes, which you will find in the lung fluid of people who have problems with the lungs, because the problems are generating the release of exosomes. And he looked at the genetic makeup claimed for COVID-19. They are exactly the same in every relevant way. An exosome and so-called COVID-19 even lock into the same cell receptors as each other. They are, as Kaufman has clearly shown, the same thing. So what's gone on here is they've taken a natural response mechanism of the body, immune system, to poisonous cells, and they've renamed it. Now, this genetic material they've taken from the lungs of people, what is the basis of this test, will contain, by its very nature, these exosomes. So they're finding a natural human immune system response mechanism, this secretion from poison cells.
I think I kind of realized early on that this was something that was risky to talk about. And, that's why I've generally not really brought it up or stayed away from it. However, if I thought that it was causing anyone to be ill at present, I would definitely not be afraid to talk about it. But it is very concerning that why would they censor this particular topic if there's really nothing for us to be concerned about? I mean, I think it's really important to realize that if people like me were just talking nonsense and we had no credibility, then why would we be censored? They could just point out that we're talking nonsense and no one would really listen, because I think, your viewers and other viewers out there of alternative media and citizen journalism, they're not naive and gullible people. A lot of them actually do their own research. And so they're going to use discrimination and discernment when they hear people talk. And so I think it's quite telling what gets censored. And I think things are much more likely to get censored if they threaten the strategy or the hidden agenda of the elite system.